I have created an empty organization on Azure DevOps called Azure DevOps Sessions. So let's navigate to the organization and see the projects. If we go for organization settings, we can see that projects, there is no project. Go to extensions, no extension. Let's go for the root and then open the demo generator project. Then sign in. I will select the organization, Azure DevOps Session, and then here I will type the name of the project, which will be MHC, My Health Clinic. Choose the template, DevOps Lab, and I will choose the Azure Kubernetes Service. So as we can see, we need to install 2 extensions for this project. So the first extension is Kubernetes Extension, which will be used or making Azure Kubernetes Service pull the image from the Azure Container Registry. And the second is Replace Token, which will replace some configuration in the app settings as well as the YAML file. Let's open the 2 extensions to install them. Get it free. And the same. Choose the organization. Install. It's completed. Close this tabs. Then I will refresh. Unfortunately, I need to do the steps again. So I will type here MHC. Choose the template, AKS. Then, as we can see, the 2 extensions are installed. So let's now go for the organization, projects. We don't have the project yet. Go for the extension. This is the 2 extensions that we installed. Then navigating back to the project, this is the creation of the project. You can see the progress. Creating 2 teams, border column, swim lanes, build the definition, release definition. Now it's completed. Let's close that. Navigate to projects so we can see our project created. Go for the root. Here is our project. So now we have our project. Let's go for the Azure Portal. So this is my current resource groups. Let's refresh. Then I will open the Cloud Shell. Select the organization and the domain. First, because this is the first time to run the Cloud Shell, then I need to create a storage so the Cloud Shell can run and store temporary files. So I will create the storage. Once it's completed, if I get back here and I can see that I have Cloud Shell storage Western Europe, this will be my storage to store the temporary file for the Cloud Shell. Let's get back to the Cloud Shell. This is the main services that I will create them right now from the command line, as I explained in the demo workflow. As I explained, I will create a variable to get the latest version of Kubernetes. Now I can echo the version, the variable, to see what is the version. So as we can see, it 1.13.5. Then I will create a resource group to hold the Azure Kubernetes Service. The resource group created. Let's navigate back here, refresh. So as we can see, this is our resource group, which is an empty. Then I will create the Azure Kubernetes Service now in this resource group. So here, as we can see, create the resource group, giving the resource group name, and then the AKS name, which is unique name. This is why I put my name. and enable monitor. And this is very important because at the end of the demo, I will show you how we can see the monitoring capability and the performance of the nodes and pods and containers. This will take time. It could take around 15 minutes to create all the services. As we can see, the service principal created. This is automatically created during the creation of the AKS. And we will use this service principal to create a role so we can have access to Azure Container Registry. So let's refresh here. So as we can see, there is other resource group created. Here we can see the AKS created. If we go for other resource group, we can see here the monitor capabilities. And here will be the nodes. It will be created with 3 nodes or 3 virtual machine, as we will see. Let's refresh, still creating them. Yes, so as we can see here. So again, after some time, as we can see, the machine is created. So waiting to the rest of the completion. Now it's completed, all the AKS created. So if we get back to the Azure, let's refresh. Then go to the resource group. It's completed now. Let's see any new resource. Here, all the nodes and the agent pool created. So if you can see here, sorted by type, we can see we have 3 virtual machines which work as an agent pool for the nodes. So let's get to the Azure Cloud Shell. And then we will create the Azure Container Registry to hold our image. So this will create Azure Container Registry. Now it's created. Let's get back and refresh here. So yes, as we can see, it's created. Get back here. Here we are going to grant AKS generated service principal access to Azure Container Registry. So first we will get the ID of the service principal, then get the ID of Azure Container Registry, then create role assignment using both of them. So here I will get the ID of the service principal in this variable, and here I will get the ID of Azure Container Registry. Then I will create the role assignment. Now it's created. Let's clear the screen so we can see the command. So here I will create the Azure SQL Server. Let's get back to refresh here. Still create. Now it's complete. If I refresh here, we can see the SQL Server created. And then I will create the database. Now the database completed. If I refresh here, also we can see that the database completed. So if I open the database to see the name of the SQL Server, because we will use it through the build and deployment. And here also, if I open the Azure Container Registry, I can see the login server. Let's navigate to our project and go to the pipeline, the build pipeline, and click edit. This is the build tasks. So we need to have a communication between the Azure pipeline and the Azure Container Registry. This is why I need to authorize Azure pipeline to have this communication. And I will do that by selecting from here my subscription, which will add a service principals with an endpoint to my Azure subscription. So I will log in using my credentials. Once I complete the login, I can have authorized to my Azure subscription. And then from here, I can select the Azure Container Registry. for all the build tasks. It will be the same. Now I go for the variables to replace the variable here, the Azure Container Registry variable. So I will go for Azure Portal, Azure Container Registry, and copy the login server. Paste it here. Then the SQL Server name, going for Azure SQL Database, and copy the SQL Server name. And replace it here. Then I will save the build without queuing the build. So let's get back to the tasks to have a quick explanation about each one. The first task is replace token, which replace keywords text files. So for example, we will replace the ACR keyword in the AKS YAML file and also the database connection string in the app setting for the web application. This includes the SQL admin and the SQL password. The run service, this is the first task for pooling the required image, which is in our case ASP.NET Core, and restoring all the third-party packages that exist in the project to that image. The next task is by building the Docker image which has our application, deploy it to that image, and then we will tag the image with the build number and the latest. The third task is pushing the image to the Azure Container Registry. And publish build, this will publish the YAML file for the AKS and the DAG pack for the SQL Server on the Azure DevOps, so the release pipeline can pick them to complete the deployment. So now, if I go for the replace token, let's open a new tab, another one for the repo. So if we can see here, this is the file that is looking for, and this is the path. So if I go for the repo here and go for the web application path, looking for the app settings, and if I open the variables of the build, we can see that here the token is, this is the suffix and the prefix. So if I go for the variables to see the variables, so we can see, for example, here the SQL user has SQL admin. This is the value. So I need to take this value and put it in the file, and this is exactly what is the replacement token. We'll take SQL admin and replace it with SQL user, which has a suffix and prefix. So for example, if we can see here, this is the SQL user and this is the SQL password. It will be replaced by the value in these two variables. This is the SQL user and this is the SQL password. So this is the replacement token, and this is for app settings. If I get back to the AKS YAML, we will see the same token prefix. Of course, I can use other prefix if I want. And this is the AKS YAML file. So let's search for this file inside the repo. So if we navigate to the file, we will find the ACR here. So this will replace by the actual name of the ACR as we copy that from our container registry. This run service that will pull the image which exists in the composer build YAML file. So let's look for this file. So as we can see, this is ASP.NET Core image, which will pull this image so we can deploy our application to that image. The next one is building the image. And this is the YAML file for the compose. Let's look for that here. So this will build an image called myhealth.web. This will copy the YAML and here the DAC file. So if we go for the release, edit, we will find here in the tasks. So this is the DAC, so I need also to have authorization. I will select that, and here to make sure that it is Azure Resource Manager. Just double check, yes, the DAC file. This is to search for the DAC file, which will be on the Azure artifacts. And then here, I need to give authorization. Select the resource group that has my Azure Kubernetes Service. Here, my Kubernetes Service. And in the secret here, I will also give the authentication to my subscription. And here, Azure Container Registry. So Azure Kubernetes can communicate with the Azure Container Registry. The same for the second task, which update the image. They're here for the secret as well. So for summary, the first task is to execute the SQL Server DAC, and this will deploy the schema to the Azure SQL Server. And after that, it will also insert some initial data. You can see that during the build log. And then the two tasks for the AKS deployment. The first one, it create deployment and service in AKS, which will be create the load balancer in the front of the web application pod. The configuration of the load balancer to be created exists in the AKS YAML file. Then the next task, update image. This will be responsible to pull the image from Azure Container Registry. It's very important to review the animation of the PowerPoint that explain all the end-to-end of the demo so you can get better insights. So now save the deployment. I need also to update the release definition variables with the actual name of the Azure Container Registry and the SQL Server on Azure, because the release pipeline will communicate with the Azure SQL Server to deploy the DAC and also to communicate with the Azure Registry. So now, as we can see here, this is the variable for the deployment. Let's copy them so the deployment can communicate as well. So here I will copy the Azure Container Registry. This is the variable for the release pipeline. The previous was the build pipeline. Here's the SQL Server. And here. So now I can save the release pipeline as well, or the release definition. So now I will queue the build. So the build now is running. So as we can see, it will start building the application. Let's look for Azure Container Registry to see when it will push the image with the application. Still not. As we can see, it is in the replacement token task. Run service, this is where it's pulling the image from the public registry. Now it's building the image. Still not yet. Now it's pushing the image. As we can see, it's every change is a layer in the image, and every change is pushing differently. Now the image pushed. So if we get back here, refresh. So yes, as we can see, we have our image. And now the release is complete. The build. So this will trigger automatically the release. So if we go for the release, we can see now it's downloading the artifact, executing the DAG pack of the database, which will create the table and also creating the data because it has the schema as well as the data of the schema. Now create deployment to Azure Kubernetes Service, updating the image, and now the release deployment complete. So if we get back to the Cloud Shell, because our session ended, then we just retrieve, we need to have the credentials. So this is like login, get credentials, so we can log in. And now I'm getting the pods, so I can get the IP of the pods, the running pods. As we can see here, the front end I can watch, so I can get the IP of the front end. So I will copy the real IP and access that. So now I can navigate to the web application, which is deployed to a Docker image on Azure Kubernetes Service. So if I run the command line, just show you here, and kubectl, this will not by default exist, and I can install it using Azure CLI. So this will install the Kubernetes cluster command line tool. And then I just need to add that to my environment variable. So I will add it here. This is the path to Kubernetes CLI or command line tool. Then I will run the command line now. Then if I run kubectl, we can see that it is working. And of course, I must have Azure CLI so I can install the Kubernetes CLI. And if not, I can just navigate to here and then install the Azure CLI, then install the Kubernetes CLI. So let's browse to the dashboard of the Kubernetes cluster. But first, because the service account that created to access the dashboard, it doesn't have the permission needed. So here I will create a cluster role binding using the service account. So now it's created, and then get the credentials so I can log in. And after that, I will browse to the dashboard, to my AKS. So this will open a proxy tunnel. Just refresh, sometimes just to quickly open before the tunnel opened. And as we can see now, we see that the dashboard, it has 2 pods. And I can navigate to look at the web dashboard of the Kubernetes cluster. Let me show you some of the monitor capabilities. When we create AKS, we enable monitor. So let's see what does that mean. So if we go here, we can see that in the insights, we can have a full capability of the monitoring, including nodes. We have 3 nodes for this AKS. And I can navigate to the nodes. Here is the container ID. And here is the pod. And if I went for controllers, we can see also all the controllers and containers. And I can scale the AKS here 3 nodes, or I can add more and save, or I can upgrade to a new Kubernetes version, or using here I can from the command line to scale or upgrade, so I don't have to do that from the Azure portal. I can do that as well from the command line or the Cloud Shell.